Thank you.
Going back to the letter, last week when I asked Matt whether it included a figure, a number of trucks and so on. So do you believe that these trucks were met, the number of the trucks that were stipulated in the letter were met?
So I answered this question already, Said.
Well, yeah,
I
okay.
literally answered that question.
Okay, so you feel that it
5
was
minutes
met,
ago.
right? It was met?
That is not what I said. What
Okay.
I said was that our hope is that the steps that we have seen taken
Right.
will create the operational conditions to allow such a figure to be able to enter.
Right. But-
It is incumbent on the government of Israel and the United Nations and others to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get there. And the United States is going to continue to play a role when it comes to that. It is not about one singular step or one singular metric specifically, Saeed. This is about all of these actions coming together and what that means for the humanitarian situation on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the letter really says either or. I mean, it was very stark, very clear in its approach and so on. So, would you say that this element of it, either or, is no longer operative? It's null. It's null. There would be no action taken if Israel backs down on the aid and so on.
That is the opposite of what I just said, Saeed,
Again,
in that
let's see.
this is an area that we are going to continue to pay close attention to.
Right.
And if we do not see consistent progress in this space, if we do not see progress that we find to be satisfactory, we of course are going to continue to, and we will enforce U.S. law, and we will make sure that we're doing so appropriately. This is not at all an announcement that the United States finds the humanitarian situation in Gaza satisfactory, or that it's great or significantly improved. That is not the case. That's not the reality of the ground. The letter that the two secretaries sent was specifically about areas that we had some specific concern, some suggested steps which we outlined that we thought would help address the humanitarian situation. We have seen some of those steps being taken. Some of those steps have not been taken yet, but this is not about a singular step or not. What this is about is that the totality of actions, including actions that were not included in the letter. And ultimately, our goal is we want to see all of that, whether it was in the letter or not, whether it was something that the United States suggested or not. We want all of those things to contribute to an increased and a positive humanitarian situation. That continues to not be the case.
Okay, so let me ask you something. This aspect of the letter that says, if you don't do this, we will do this and so on, is it still operative, or has it been canceled, or has it been expired, not canceled?
Said, we will always be effective implementers of
Right.
U.S. law.
Okay.
Currently, we have not made an assessment that they are in violation of U.S. law. That, of course, can change at any time. We are watching these circumstances closely, and we will make appropriate changes within our own policy should we need to, if we assess that their compliance with U.S. law has changed. It's as simple as that.
I wonder if we can get you to comment on what Mr. Smotrich said, the Minister of Finance, about, once the new president is sworn in, they'll be able to annex the West Bank. Do you have any comment on that?
This President Biden and Secretary Blinken have reiterated consistently the clear position of the United States in support of a two-state solution as part of a negotiated process that ultimately will provide an independent Palestinian state with appropriate security guarantees for Israel. The comments that were made by this minister certainly are not conducive to building an enduring peace, and they are incredibly inconsistent with the principles that Secretary Blinken laid out in Tokyo last year.
Well, the Cannes news agency, an Israeli news agency, also quoted the Prime Minister himself as saying exactly that in a closed-door meeting. So is it something that you raise with the Prime Minister, or something that the President likely to raise, as one of his last actions and so on, to impress upon this Prime Minister that that the settlements are illegal, that settlements ought to stop, that the West Bank should remain a viable land for a Palestinian state?
Saeed, at the corner of our approach to policy when it comes to this region, specifically policy that we think impacts the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. At the center of that is a constant and clear position of the United States commitment to a two-state solution. I will let other people speak to their own points of view. Tom, go ahead.